Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is investigative reporter Spencer Fernando. You can find his articles at SpencerFernando.com. Welcome back to the show, Spencer.
Good to be here.
Spencer, Hong Kong, people have occupied the airport. Flights in and out are canceled. One of the airlines said their shares have dropped because of the news about that. Cathay Pacific, I believe. Anyway, yep. What I'm wondering, though, some of these protests seem to be so organized. Are there actually Chinese agents in there organizing these protests so the Chinese army has an excuse to move in and stay?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to know. There's obviously a lot of disinformation. I think certainly the most protesters are legitimate. I think, especially when you see increased violence, I don't think it would be easy to get too many people to just go pretend to protest when they know they're facing violence. But yeah, I mean, it is a tried and true tactic really around the world of governments putting provocateurs in with protesters and getting the provocateurs to do crazy things to justify a crackdown. And I think China's just looking for any excuse to go in. Obviously, their concern is that in the smartphone era, they wouldn't exactly, not just like Tiananmen Square. I mean, there was some video of that, and the video was powerful. But now with smartphones, I mean, every act of aggression against people would be, video would be taken. So I think that's what they're concerned about. But yeah, it's a concerning situation. I definitely feel for the people there. They were promised, something by China, that they would be very much independent, autonomous, have their own legal system. And China's gone back on all of the promises. They're pushing way too soon, way before they said they would. And people aren't happy about it, and it's tough. I mean, China's got a big military, so it's a pretty scary situation for them.
You think China's become used to pushing people around? Look what they've done to Canada, banning our agricultural shipments, detaining Canadians on alleged charges of spying, although formal charges have not been laid. All over the Huawei executive being held in Vancouver. Do you think China has decided to become the world's new bully, replacing the U.S.?
I think so. I think they feel, I mean, what they really did with Hong Kong and with even many of the trade deals when they entered the WTO is, when they weren't that powerful, they knew all the right words to say, they knew all the right documents to sign to make people feel calm and not concerned. And they bided their time. And now that they're a lot more powerful militarily, a lot more powerful economically, they're starting to say, you know what? We don't have to abide by any of these things we signed because no one can really make us do it. So yeah, I mean, they're obviously bullying Canada. If you look at what's happening in the Philippines, I mean, there's in Vietnam, a lot of fishermen there. Even when they're in the territorial waters of Vietnam and the Philippines, China's pushing them out. So there's a lot of anger in the area, and a lot of concern, and yeah, China really, they obviously feel emboldened. They think they can really get away with anything.
Do you think trade talks are trying to deflect from these military moves from China? Or is it just part of their general strategy? Let's just push our way in and see how far we can get before the world pushes back.
I think so. I think what they're doing is, they obviously have employed a lot of people to monitor the media around the world. I get 100 or so views every day from China, which is interesting because I'm criticizing their government regularly. It's probably not regular Chinese citizens reading that. It's government monitors. So they're monitoring the media. They've seen what's happening, and they know that there's a debate in much of the world, especially the Western world, with some people saying, you know what, we need to stand by our values, even if that means less trade with China. We need to stand up for what we believe in, which is what I've been saying. But there's also a lot of people. I mean, Nova Scotia's premier, Liberal premier, they just said they're setting up a 100% China-friendly website because they want more trade with China, and they want to make sure that they have a website that doesn't get blocked by China's censors. So they know that debate's going on. I think they're going to push and see, and they hope that the people who just want more trade will win out, and people are going to look the other way on whatever China does.
Well, at the upcoming BC Municipalities Union meeting, the Chinese government has a $6,000 hospitality suite there, and a lot of the mayors, especially in cities that have a large Chinese population, say they see nothing wrong with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's, the big problem is that China's, they know that there's a lot of people who are just either afraid of confronting China or have a political interest in not confronting them, and they're expecting that to tie the hands of other countries and let them get away with what they want. And I think a lot of those people, if that's what they do, they're going to look back, and it's not going to look too good. I mean, there were a lot of people who wanted to give in to the Soviet Union, a lot of people who are just fine with, fascist and authoritarian regimes, and those people don't look so good in retrospect. So I think a lot of the people trying to pander to China and give in to China or look the other way, I don't think history is going to be too kind to them.
Does Canada need to be stronger with China? I mean, we don't even have an ambassador there, and their ambassador to Canada left as well.
Yeah, we definitely need to be tougher. I think the most important thing is I think our leaders need to have an honest conversation with the country and say, look, we really have two choices. If we want more trade with China, then obviously China's been very clear that the price of that is going to be looking the other way, giving them what they want, and that's just embarrassing for us as a supposedly sovereign country that believes in freedom. So the alternative is that we just have to decouple our economy from them. Say, we're not going to pursue more trade with them. We're going to do trade with countries that more align with our values, and that will have some difficulty. There may need to be a bailout for farmers, but I think we're at the point where we need to stand up for what we believe in and say we're not going to let ourselves be economically dependent on China.
Should Canada be looking more at what they call the five tigers of Asia, places like Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, that have, growing populations that need goods and agricultural products? Should Canada be making much more effort for countries like that don't try to push people around?
I think so. I mean, I think that's the thing is that, the values of freedom and democracy clearly have resonance with people of all backgrounds and countries all around the world. So, there's already a lot of growth in some of those economies, a lot of potential. India, a lot of potential there. India has huge potential because they're still a very young population. So if they can really get their middle class going, get some of their issues sorted out, then that's huge potential, and they're much more in line with what we believe as Canadians. So I think that's where we should be looking. Unfortunately, with China, in theory, it would be nice to trade more with them, but the price is just too high. They obviously want to be able to dictate what we're supposed to say and do. They want to treat us like garbage and know that we can't respond if we're dependent on them, and we just need to look elsewhere.
We'll have more with Spencer Fernando right after the break.
Grand Portage Resources' Herbert Gold Project in southeast Alaska highlights increased gold resource, indicated and inferred, of 860,000 ounces, in excess of 10 grams per ton gold. Expansion drilling is planned on the Herbert Gold property for the summer of 2019. Grand Portage Resources trading symbols are GPG on the TSX Venture, GPTRF on the OTCQB, and GPB on Frankfurt. For more information, please visit our website, grandportage.com.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Spencer Fernando. Spencer, what was the feeling in Winnipeg when they discovered the bodies of those two young murder suspects from British Columbia up in northern Manitoba?
I think just relief. I think people are just glad it's over. Obviously, lots of uncertainty when you hear that there's people out there, suspected killers going around. People don't know where they are, don't know what's going on. So I think people are just glad that it's been brought to an end.
Somebody criticized saying, if the victims had been Aboriginal, there wouldn't have been such a manhunt. But take a look at who lives in the area where the manhunt took place. I think they were trying to protect the Aboriginal community.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there have been some criticisms of the RCMP, and I've criticized them at times. But yeah, the idea that this is somehow based on the race, I don't think that makes any sense. I think the RCMP would have gone just as hard to find who it was if it was Indigenous people who'd been killed. So yeah, that's not a fair criticism to me at all. And it was a nationwide story. I mean, it's
an international story.
Yeah. I mean, they thought they were just missing, and then it turns out they were suspected killers. That was a big story, and once it got all the attention, people aren't going to just sit back and say, oh, well, we don't really care what happens. Maybe they'll get away. The whole country and the whole world was watching, and people wanted it brought to an end.
Was there any suspicion that perhaps RCMP snipers took these guys out, and then later they claimed that they had committed mutual suicide by gun?
I don't think so. That doesn't seem too credible to me. I think if they had done that, they'd probably want to take credit for it. If they had a reason to shoot them and they did it, then that's something I think the RCMP would admit to. So no, I think it seems most likely these guys just, they thought they were going to get away with it. They thought it was going to be secret. It wasn't. They realized the whole nation was looking for them. They realized they weren't getting away, and I guess they decided to just take themselves out.
Yes, the forests of northern BC compared to northern Manitoba, two different beasts, because I've been in both.
Yeah, definitely, even if they had apparently practiced some survivalist stuff, but, yeah, I don't think they were really prepared for, obviously they weren't prepared for what happened if, they decided to shoot themselves, so. The
muskeg and the mosquitoes, the two M's. Plus the muck, I call them the 3 M's of northern Manitoba. They will discourage anybody once you get off the beaten path.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the whole situation obviously got away from them. It seems like they didn't expect it to turn into a nationwide manhunt. I think early on they had said some of the bodies that they found after they'd killed some people seemed to have some attempt to, I think, hide their identity or mutilate it or something. So they thought they were going to hide, but obviously didn't get away with it.
And usually most murders have some kind of motive. These seem to be a couple of guys operating at random, shooting people who were completely harmless and no threat to anyone.
Exactly, and I think that's one reason it disturbs so many people in the country. When you hear about gang crime or, a targeted killing, obviously very disturbing, but it doesn't give the average person the feeling that, okay, I could be a target, but when you're talking about just people, they run into people and they just decide to kill them. That's pretty disturbing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why people were so worried. And then you have the whole added aspect of, they're somewhere in the country. We think we kind of know where they are, but we're not totally sure. Lots of uncertainty there. So, yeah, I think the big feeling is just relief.
Toronto, racked by multiple shootings over the past week and a half. Do you think the Trudeau government would use that as an excuse to ban handguns in Canada?
Yeah, it looks like that's the direction they're going. They kind of keep moving towards that in their rhetoric. One thing they don't focus on, of course they won't because it makes them look bad, is, the Liberals brought in legislation that actually reduces some of the penalties for gang crime. So, on the one hand, they're going to talk about handguns. But of course the way it always goes is there's urban violence, gang violence, and the Liberals bring in new gun restrictions, which ends up impacting people in rural Canada who aren't the source of the violence in the first place. And it's just used as an excuse to take rights away from Canadians. So yeah, I don't think people expect anything actually to be fixed. Really, it's the gangs that are the problem. Most of these guns are illegal anyway. They've got to strengthen border inspections. Strengthen efforts to go against gangs, but I don't think you're going to hear much of that from the Liberals.
Well, you never hear, Vancouver every once in a while has a huge spate of gang-related shootings where people are shooting it out between cars in the middle of daylight or gunning down people at popular shopping malls. But because we're in the West, we don't get the attention until it happens in the center of the universe, Toronto. Do you think that might be the case here?
For sure. I think it's similar to what you see in the United States, too, where, Chicago has gigantic, it's horrific, the amount of gun violence in Chicago. It's like 10, 20, 30 people shot every weekend. That might be just one day. But Chicago's not the center of the U.S. media. Los Angeles and New York City are. So stories don't, and Chicago's still a huge city, but even there, the rampant gun violence doesn't get as much coverage as it would if it was an L.A. or a New York story. So yeah, I think something similar happening here. If it's not happening in Toronto, then it's not considered as big a deal by much of the media.
We'll have more with Spencer Fernando right after this.
I'm Douglas Mason, CEO of Naturally Splendid, symbol NSP on the TSX Venture Exchange. Naturally Splendid is a biotechnology and consumer products company focused on the global cannabis and health markets. Naturally Splendid is expanding distribution in this rapidly growing market with products currently in Canada, the USA, South Korea, Germany, and Australia. To view our comprehensive company presentation and for more information, please visit our website at naturallysplendid.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Spencer Fernando. Spencer, how do Canadians feel about the way the Trudeau government has handled the Huawei 5G file?
Not good. I think about 25% think it's been handled decently, 40% not in favor of how it's handled, the rest say they don't know. And then there's obviously very strong negative feelings toward the government of China itself. 90% of Canadians expressing negative views of Communist China's government, which is, and that's, I think, as bad as it's ever been, for good reason. I mean, pretty understandable why. But yeah, I think people feel that the government hasn't been strong enough. When it took how long for Chrystia Freeland to even get a meeting? And then they portrayed the meeting as progress, even though it was just a quick chat on the sideline of a totally unrelated event. Basically, she went up to the guy, the foreign minister of China, and if he had walked away, it would have been an international incident. So he just stood there and they talked for a little bit, but nothing came of it. Nobody released, no change. So I think people are saying, not only is the government not showing any strength, but their approach isn't getting any results.
Maxime Bernier, leader of the People's Party of Canada, banned from the televised election debates in Canada. Was that a fair move on the organizers?
No, I don't think so. I think they're going to be running candidates, it appears, in every riding or close to every riding. They have many more candidates already than Liberals do. Obviously, the media gives them a lot of coverage, so they're getting a lot of attention there. Then you've got the Bloc, who they only run candidates in one province. They want to break up the country, but they're in the debates, even though almost everyone in the country can't even vote for them on the ballot. So that's interesting. So I think it's unfair. You know what? When you really think about it, there should be tiers of debate. There should be, an initial debate that's kind of a free-for-all with all the main parties in there, even some of the smaller parties. And then the people, maybe a week or so later, the people who emerge at the top of the polls, then you should have a debate of the top 2 or 3, with actually a chance of winning. So, almost like what you see with some of the primary debates in the U.S., where there's all the candidates and then they narrow it down. I think that'd be a good balance here. So, give everyone a chance to get their message out to the country, and then narrow it down to the actual possible winners.
69,000 private sector jobs lost in Canada recently. Is Canada headed towards recession, and has the federal government done a good job of protecting jobs?
No, I don't think they have done a good job at all. The job numbers actually haven't been that good when you consider the population increase from immigration, when you consider the numbers in the United States, when you consider the trend, when you consider how much government money, how much deficit spending the government's done, with very little to show for it. So, the Liberals are going to try to run on the economy, but most polls show the vast majority of Canadians don't feel their own personal economic situation is doing well. And so I think it's going to be a bit of a tough sell for the Liberals to say, oh, vote for us, the economy's doing great, even if you feel like your personal financial situation is not doing well at all. So we'll see. I mean, the thing about economic numbers is everyone can spend it however they want. The Liberals will say, well, in the last 7.5 months we created this and that number of jobs. Someone else will say, well, in the last 9.5 months this many jobs were created. So everyone will play around with the numbers and kind of make it look like what they want, but I think the real thing to look at is what people actually say, and every poll shows the majority of Canadians do not feel things are going well.
The federal government has this hundreds of millions of dollars media support slush fund to send money around, I guess, to their media buddies. Who's getting this money, and how much are they getting?
Well, there's a lot of money being given around. I think the Toronto Star is even getting some, which is interesting. I've seen some reports saying it's actually going to be more than $600 million, because one of the groups that picked the people on the panel, the Newspaper Association, so obviously they want even more money, and their recommendation was to give more money to different papers. And so you look at the Toronto Star. Toronto Star is a big paper, obviously, unabashedly left-leaning. They've been talking about bold, progressive journalism, so they're basically admitting to bias right there. And then they're very pro-liberal, so they're getting money. They're not in any danger of collapse, so it's interesting why they need a bailout fund. And then some of the money is being given to current media organizations, current newspapers, to help them transition to digital. But they're not giving money to websites that are already strong in the digital realm. So it's very interesting. Giving money to the establishment media so they can compete when they fail to compete in the free market against other people who are actually succeeding in the free market on digital already. So it's not about saving community newspapers. It's obviously about buying out the media and protecting the establishment media.
Spencer, how much of this money have you got?
0.
And we can say that we haven't received any of that money either. Should we?
Yeah, No, I mean, I wouldn't take it even if it was offered. But they're not going to be giving money to people who criticize the Trudeau government that much. Or if they do, they'll give it to kind of the token criticism, the people who write, 50 positive articles about the government and then one negative and say, oh, look we're totally unbiased. We're very neutral. So yeah, I think people can see it for what it is.
The Vancouver Transit Authority, TransLink's chair, right now makes just a little over $400,000 a year. They have a new proposal that would boost his salary and the other top execs by about $100,000 more a year, putting him over the $500,000 a year mark. Should top bureaucrats in a province make more than the premier does?
Nope. I mean, that's more than the U.S. president makes, so that's interesting. Yeah, that's crazy. I think it's basically people voting themselves raises, and surprise, surprise, they vote for a large salary, so it's not surprising to see people do that, but it's just surprising the system allows it. Then the same people come by and say, oh, the government doesn't have money for all these other things people need. We can't help our seniors, or we can't help veterans. So where's all the money going? It's going to big salaries for people. There's just an example of, I think, the Union for the Canada Revenue Agency is criticizing the Conservatives federally for saying that they'll give Quebec, there'll just be one income tax form in Quebec instead of the two. And they said, oh, that'll cost 5,500 jobs of CRA people. So that means there's 5,500 people collecting a taxpayer-funded salary to process tax returns when a simple administrative change makes that not necessary. Yeah, maybe that's where all our money's going. Maybe that's where we can never balance the budget. There's no money for veterans, but there's money for a bunch of people filing or looking at their taxes. So it's an interesting set of priorities the government has.
A lot of people are saying, a national pharmacare program would make sense in terms of how much money it would save Canadian individuals. Governments, of course, argue they can't afford it. But isn't it true Canada is owed about $55 billion in taxes, and it doesn't look like the government's making a very serious effort to track that dough down?
No, I mean, if you look at all the offshore accounts, all the Panama Papers, all that stuff, the government knows that there's tons of money being sent to offshore tax havens, many billions of dollars per year. And they'll say corporations, but really it's actually individuals, very wealthy individuals who set up companies and then use that to send the money away. So yeah, I mean, you look at how hard they go after regular Canadians for not paying taxes. But the big guys, the ones at the top, seems they get away with it. I think we all remember when, I think it was Stephen Bronfman, there was a report on him apparently sending money to a tax haven. And a day later, after the report, Trudeau said, "Oh, I've spoken with the CRA and there's no problem here." So very nice that Bronfman, who just happens to be a big Liberal donor, got an instant check from and a clean slate from the TM. But the rest of us all have to wait if there's some sort of dispute. So, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that the people at the top have a different set of rules for them.
Spencer, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Yeah, good talking to you.
My guest has been investigative reporter Spencer Fernando. You can find his articles at spencerfernando.com. If you have any questions for Spencer or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. And also, we're getting inquiries about what's happened to our regular guest, Michael Rivero. Michael is in the middle of a big transition from Hawaii to the mainland of the U.S., so it'll take him a month or so to make this major transition from paradise back to regular life, I guess. But he will be back, so if you're wondering where is Michael Rivero, he will be back on the Goddard Report. And again, if you have any questions for us, you can send them to info@howstreet.com, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.